Welcome to Daytona International Raceway for the Daytona 200 weekend. But before we get to that at 1 o'clock, we still have some racing left to do. We are live now at the World Center of Racing for the BellissiMoto Twins Cup, race number 2 of the weekend. And I'm Jamie Howe. I'll be joined in the broadcast booth by Roger Hayden. We have a third member of our broadcast team down on pit lane. That is Lorette Nicole. We'll hear from her in just a couple of moments. But Roger, yesterday in the first race, we had a little bit of domination.
Yeah, Gus Rodeo coming in this season, you know, we thought he was going to be a title contender, and it's just a guy that's been fast all weekend. He unloaded off the truck, has been really quick, set on pole for the first race. We're going to see the highlights here just from the get-go. You can see Gus there on pole with a really good start. Rocco Landers tried to lead early, but Gus knew what he wanted to do, makes a quick pass. Ed Sullivan and went down and caught Caleb DeCarroll. Both those guys were out of the race, but up and okay.
Caleb was actually able to get back out. He finished inside of the top 20.
Yeah, and almost close enough to get the points, but at this point of the race, you can see Gus here with the leaders behind him, and it looks like the battle for second and third is going to be between these two guys as they went back and forth as the race went on.
It's Dominic Doyle right there. You see him, that third bike in the frame. He came on strong right when it mattered.
Starting at the back of the grid with an injury right before the race, was able to work his way into second. But what about Gus Rodeo? A win over 11 seconds.
Over 11 seconds, that gap. That's just incredible. When you think about how close these riders have been all weekend, for Gus Rodeo, his confidence has to be high. It was Dominic Doyle who did finish second. Avery Dreyer making the move up to Twins Cup from the Junior Cup. He finished in third, rounding out the podium. Rocco Landers, another name that we're going to see all season as he's here for the full season as well. Let's go ahead and get down to the third member of our team that I mentioned earlier. Lorette Nicole is down on the grid with all the riders.
Jamie, I appreciate you, and Gus Rodeo is my first interview, and Gus, as you sit here, you are calm, cool, collected, and with an 11.5-second lead yesterday in race number 1, how do you repeat that?
Well, we went out and warm up, and I was like to my main mechanic, Rich, I was like, do you think we could do 55s this morning? And he was like, I mean, maybe, but, you know, don't push too hard. And we went out, we broke my track record in warm-up, which was great on the race tires from yesterday. So new tires on today. Hopefully I could just put together the pace I did yesterday, but a little bit faster, and just keep putting time. And we started off this weekend with my setup from race 2 last year, and we literally have not touched one clicker. We haven't touched the bike at all since last year. So I'm just out here riding and having fun, and it's what I love to do, so let everything else kind of fall into line.
Gus Rodeo, thank you very much for your time. And in the second position, we have Dominic Doyle, and yesterday you'll remember that, or this weekend, he had a shoulder injury that he was dealing with, and top of the grid here. Dominic, how is your shoulder?
It's a little tender today. Went out and warm up and got to spin some laps. So, I mean, I know it works on the bike, so we'll go out and see what we can do.
And going out there,
honestly, just trying to stay with the front guys, trying to maybe go with Gus and see where I can get. But yeah, I'm just looking to.
Dominic, thank you very much. And Avery Dreyer, yesterday he was looking for a pack partner. And Avery, I wanted to talk about that pack and what you're experiencing in that.
Yeah, being in the pack is definitely a bit more stressful than, you know, being out front where Gus was. And today the goal is going to be to hang with Gus and Dominic. We made some changes with myself and the bike, so I know I can get it done today.
And we can see from my hair and this umbrella that the wind is really picking up. How is that going to affect you?
You know, I'm going to have to be careful in the braking zone going into some of the corners because we're going to have a high tailwind, so I'm just going to have to be careful and probably change up my braking zone.
And with that braking zone, I saw a couple of riders sitting up. Are you doing that, or how are you managing that?
Yeah, I mean, bike, so yeah, it definitely helps a little.
Avery, best of luck. Thank you very much. And Rocco Landers.
And you can see we're having some technical issues down on the grid. It's unfortunate, Roger. I'd like to have heard what Rocco had to say, but some interesting comments nonetheless, having to change some braking zones due to the wind out there. Oh, there's Matthew Skoltz. He's out on the grid. I've heard some rumors that we're going to see him throughout the points paying part of the season, Roger.
Yeah, I read this morning, probably the same article you read, that he's going to be in Supersport this year. So it's going to be, if the rumor's true, it's great to see him out there helping his Westby crew chief, Ed Sullivan, who's actually crashed the first lap yesterday, but having a good weekend so far, starting 6th. So it's Matt's weekend to do the work.
Yeah, you saw him carrying and having to prove that he's worth that time that Ed's been putting in for him, and that was unfortunate to watch Ed go down yesterday. He had been fast, and you see he had qualified on the 2nd row, starting in the 6th position, so he's definitely had some speed. Hopefully to get today, he might be able to get some laps put together.
Yeah, and that first horseshoe is really tight on that first lap, and everybody's kind of jockeying for position, so it's kind of easy to either, lose the front end or somebody get into you and go down. And we talk a lot about having 2 races each race weekend, and that's a great thing. He has the opportunity to go out today and still get a good result.
And Caleb DeCarroll was involved in that. We saw in that package of highlights, you see that pink bike there for Caleb DeCarroll, and him to be back in the Twins Cup Championship for the full season. He's really looking to make a name for himself and to prove that all of the results, the 10 race wins that he's had in this category in the past, he can still do that.
Yeah, and it's a totally different ball game for him. When he raced Twins Cup, the only guy at the front that's still there is Rocco Landers. The rest of it's a new crop of generation of the young riders, so it's going to be a little bit different. And Caleb is a really good rider, and he's always been so fast in Twins Cup, a champion, a runner-up. So he's going to, it's kind of a new program coming together, so it might take a race or two. But Caleb is definitely going to be one of those guys who's going to be tough to beat as the year goes on.
BellissiMoto Twins Cup is brought to you by BellissiMoto, where the biggest names in custom bike building shop for parts. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
And as all the riders are now out experiencing what the wind is offering at this stage in the day, Roger, let's take a look at Daytona International Speedway, just over 3.5 miles.
Yeah, in Daytona, there's not another track like it with the bankings. You see the track map come up through here. A couple places to look for where we see a lot of passing. You see turn 1. You got to be careful with the draft through there and getting through the infield, where we've seen Gus yesterday was able to make his break. Out of the banking on turn 6, a huge transition through there, and we're going to see a lot of drafting all the way down to turn 9. Through that chicane and out of there, it's going to be so important on the Twins Cup bike to be able to get a run out of there through NASCAR 4. The top speeds of these Twin Cup bikes have been incredible this weekend, and it's going to come down to coming out of NASCAR 12 there and be able to get a run to the stripe, and it's going to expect a bigger pack today.
All right, let's take a look at how we are going to head into racing, starting off with row 1. Gus Rodeo, that 155.1 is what he qualified with, but yesterday in the race he was able to show very similar pace of 155.6. We'll talk more about that. Dominic Doyle starting alongside him. Avery Dreyer rounding out the first row. Rocco Landers starting 4th. Ben Glotty alongside him, and then there's Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, and you can see on row 3 another young guy, Alessandro DeMario, starting 7th. Rossi Moore, another young kid, moving up. And Caleb DeCarroll there starting 9th.
Coming back to the class, Romeo Chiavini was starting off row number 4. That's a name we're going to talk about with that new top pro team. Tyler Duffy. Sonia Lloyd was another name that we saw up there on the screen starting in 14.
Yeah, and yesterday she was able to get 12, so that's a great start for her for her first Twins Cup race. As you see, as the grid fills out, man, and it is a full Twins Cup grid. It's great to see all the riders and how this class has grown.
Let's take a look. We've talked about the wind, and we heard some of the riders mention the tailwind. And look, 10 mile an hour is what we have, but it just seems like it's so much stronger than what we had yesterday. 72 degrees outside. It's beautiful right now. The clouds are starting to burn off a little bit. 94% humidity at the moment. We are by the airport, so we get some of those gusts, though, Roger.
Yeah, and it might be steady 10 mile an hour, but you could get a gust up to 15 or 16, and definitely going to feel it. You can see the flag that the chief steward there holding there at the front of the grid. You can see how hard it is for him to hold it.
See that nod he's hearing from race control as he will now move out of the way. We'll wait for the lights to come up. It's now in the hands of the official starter. Lights are out. We're going racing, Roger. It is race number 2 of the BellissiMoto Twins Cup here at Daytona International Speedway.
A great start for Dominic Doyle, able to take his original grid spot in a big crash into turn 1. Looks like Avery Dreher.
99, yes.
Man, just all the guys rushing down into turn 1 like that. Just so easy to do through there. Everybody being aggressive early on in this race.
Saw Gus Rodeo lined up behind Dominic Doyle in second place. We are still under green flag racing.
See Dominic Doyle taking advantage of able to not have to start in the back of the grid early, but you can see Gus being really aggressive early in the second horseshoe there, and Dominic's going to have to try to latch on. Gus has showed incredible pace. Talking about breaking the track record this morning, his previous one, it was a 55-1. He was 2 seconds quicker than the next guy in the warm-up.
We're hearing now that Avery Dreher has been able to get back up, which is why we've been able to stay green. That was also a great start for Ben Glotty on the number 72. He's now found himself into third position, but let's go back and take a look at what happened.
Yeah, you can just see how the track gets really tight right there, and where he was at, two lines just came together. Both guys kind of wanting the same real estate. Couldn't get a super clear angle there, but you can just see how the track, everybody funnels down into here. He was on the inside there. Looked like maybe Ben Glotty, he got in the back of him, and unfortunately for Avery, went down. He's had such a good weekend. It's tough to see it end like that.
You saw him slide across that grate, the drain grate there. Probably felt like a little bit of a rumble strip underneath him. We're going to take another look at this first angle one more time. Again, we have confirmed that he's been able to get up.
It almost looked like Ben was maybe going to try to make the pass on the person in front of him and didn't see Avery there. It was just a racing incident. Everybody trying to, jockey for position as we see this race. A little bit different this first lap than the race we seen yesterday. You can see it's a lot bigger pack. Dominic Doyle looks like in the draft he's able to kind of keep this group close, and this weekend through this infield part of the track. Gus has been so fast through this first sector. It goes all the way through here till they get on the banking, and you can see right now he's got his head down. He has his plan. His plan is to get through here really clean and see if he can break the draft, and that's going to be the name of the game for Gus if he can get out and do what he did yesterday.
Yeah, there are a lot more riders that are able to stay in this lead pack now as we are on the second of 9 laps that we're going to watch unfold, but we still have a lot of riders that are right there for it.
See Rocco there making a mistake in the turn 6, pushing hard.
He's going to go wide.
Going to lose a couple spots, but able for him, he was able to save it for the most part and able to stay in the draft with the guys that he was racing with. But you could tell he was pushing hard. He was wanting to see if he couldn't stay with Gus.
There is some movement happening. We have Gus Rodeo, Rocco Landers right up in there.
And Dominic Doyle's not, his lap timing is not showing up on the screen, but he is second right now. Gus put a little bit of a gap, but this banking is so long, and we're able to see, the power of the Yamaha. If they're not able to close that gap that Gus is able to build during the infield, and you can see these 4 guys. Rossi Moore today looks like he's having a lot better run, racing with this group here for that last podium spot.
You see Alessandro Di Mario looking to move himself up a little bit higher into this pack.
Oh, Rocco's in deep. You could see that where Rocco on the brakes there, where you talk about getting sucked in the draft, was there on the inside, the fourth man. Man, it was really tight, but he was able to make the pass there into turn one. And you can just see how hard Rocco's trying to push today, trying to find that next step that he's looking for.
All of these riders, though, they went back. For sure, they watched the race yesterday.
Watch the race and sit down with the crew and not only watch it, but to be able to be in it and make improvements. We see Gus, best lap of the race so far is a 55.8. Yesterday he did a 55.6. He got faster as the race went on. Even though he had the big lead, we watched the race as it went on yesterday. He just got faster as it went on.
You now see Dominic Doyle being scored as in second place. And Gus Rodeo, Dominic Doyle, they've been able to pull out a little bit of a lead over this battle that we see for third.
And you can see this battle here with Rocco and Ben Glotty and Alessandro DeMario and also Rossi Moore. Great to see him kind of get in that podium battle, and for Rocco's looking a lot better than he looked yesterday. You can tell he's pushing hard, but he looks a lot more comfortable than we've seen him on the bike all weekend.
Remember, they had made some changes to the bike, and he even said it, that they were getting more and more comfortable as the weekend went, and that's really all that they needed. He didn't have any testing time on this Twins Cup bike, and now they've had 2 days of it.
Yeah, and it's just difficult. The first time you sit on the bike is the first practice, but luckily he was here, got some good points yesterday, and you see this battle here. It's interesting to see the Suzuki looks like it's really good early in toward the end of the draft, but it just seems like it takes it a little longer to get there, and it's just, you always watch the draft and you never know what strategy the rider is playing. Is he messing with them, or is he in the spot that he wants to be?
Well, Ben Glotty was able to play that perfectly and get himself up around Rocco Landers. But then Rossi Moore as well.
Yeah, great run for Rossi. And this last lap for, talk about Gus, last lap of 55.4. The previous race record was a 55.5. So that's pretty impressive for Gus to be able to go out there in this wind and able to do that by himself.
And this is the battle, or that was the battle we were watching for third. Though it was your race leader, the number 96 of Gus Rodeo. There is second place right now, Dominic Doyle, aboard that number 25 machine. Ben Glotty currently slotted into third, but he's got the whole pack right there with him.
Yeah, Ben Glotty, Rocco Landers, Rossi Moore, and Alessandro DeMario. These four guys are just battling back and forth every time in the draft. And we see smoke, maybe Dominic Doyle smoking. He's going to be out of the race. Smart heads up by Dom to realize he had a problem and able to pull off the banking.
He put his hand up, alerted the other riders that there was an issue, quickly got out of the way, but you saw him tuck his head down. Just complete devastation.
Yeah, disappointing, and that changes this battle now. This battle is now for second and third. We got four guys and only 2 podium spots up for grabs.
And this also extends the lead that Gus Rodeo is going to have over the rest of this field. He now has a larger gap than what he had before. And for Dominic Doyle, he did such a great job yesterday. Remember, he had to start at the back of the grid after the injury that he suffered during the Super Hooligans race, had to go to medical. They had to pop his shoulder back into place. He had to prove to MotoAmerica he was fit to ride, do some push-ups, race his way all the way onto the podium position, looking to start in his original grid position today and hopefully make something more of it, but his day is over.
Yeah, his day's over, and for him, unfortunate, not going to score any points today. And had a good race yesterday, and you know, he could kind of lean on that, had some decent points. But for Dom, wanting to go for the title this year, it's going to be a tough hit. As you see Rossi Moore there being aggressive early in the infield there on Alessandro DeMario. It's not the first time these two guys have battled before. They did this plenty of times in Junior Cup.
Yeah, and that's our leader on the left-hand side of your screen. That is Gus Rodeo. He now has a 5.6 second gap over the second place, who right now is Rossi Moore, and nobody wants to give any of the other riders an inch of space to do something, Roger.
Especially in a big pack like this, you know, when they come around, there's only 4.5 laps left. It goes fast at Daytona on this banking. It is so quick. And all these guys, too, are in this group, are some young riders besides Rocco, and they're still trying to learn. And it's interesting when you see this draft, all these guys are trying to remember and figure out where do they want to be toward the last lap when they pull out. Can I make the pass? And you see through here what Ben Glotty pulls up in that draft, and it almost looks like he kind of lets off a little bit, like he doesn't want to make the pass before they get into the chicane.
Those second, third, fourth, and fifth that we just saw on the right-hand side of your screen. The top 5 riders all going for the 3 podium positions. It's Gus Rodeo on the left-hand side of your screen. That gap is still just at right about 6 seconds. So he is just ticking away. Doesn't have to push it. Doesn't have to worry about anybody right there with him. At this moment, he's not in a battle. Not in a battle, and for Gus, just kind of carbon copied what he did yesterday, just a little bit quicker. But you go to his best lap is a 55.7. His lap before that was a 55.6, and then he had a 55.4. What's so impressive with Gus is the consistency. Every lap is within a couple tenths. His best lap time so far in this race, that 55.4, that is better than the race pace that he had yesterday, as he has now extended his lead to over 8 seconds, with Alessandro Di Mario being shown in second place right now on that number, that 27 Aprilia. And we see on our timing screens where, it might show a rider in second, and by the time they get down into turn 1, the way the draft works, you could go across the line in second and come out of turn 1 in fourth. We say it's 8 seconds is the gap, but you just saw on the picture what it actually looks like on the racetrack. And Roger, when you're sitting in second or third or fourth place and you see the target is all the way out in front of you, a whole nother turn ahead, how do you push to get there? You just try to win the battle that you're in. You try to beat the guys that are behind you and just see if you can't kind of pull away. And you can see Alessandro Di Mario that time in that first sector. You can see the little gap that he pulled. He just did his personal best first sector, and you can see what it's did, and he's trying to break that gap, and that's all you can do. Not push too hard. He's not going to catch Gus, but what he needs to do is try to get away from this little group behind him if possible. It's Rocco Landers on the 97. He's been able to settle in, and he's now sitting on the last spot of the podium in third place, but this battle is nowhere near over. We still have 3.5 laps to go. You can see Rocco on the banking. Look how tight. You can see trying to get as aero as possible, trying to sniff any part of the draft. Look at you can see his elbows, how tight he's got his elbows in, and you can see what it does. The draft, Alessandro had about a half a second lead coming out of the chicane, and now he might slide all the way back toward the end of this group. Ben Glotty making the move, trying to move himself back up into better contention. Rocco Lander is able to hold on to that third place right now behind the number 27 of Alessandro Di Mario. In the last lap through here, this is where Alessandro was really strong through this infield part. You can see now, when you're leading coming out of turn 1 and in that big group, you're just trying as hard as you possibly can through this infield section to kind of get away. He has the speed. You can see right now he's kind of pulling that gap. Rocco there is not going to try to let him go. And talk about Rocco getting more comfortable. He's quite a bit quicker than he was in yesterday's race. So Rocco's definitely starting to get more comfortable in that new Suzuki. Yes, through that infield section on the last lap, Di Mario was almost a full second better than Rocco Landers when you look at the first sector lap times. And Rocco, that lap in the first sector, did his personal best, and you can see now that gap between him and Alessandro Di Mario wasn't nearly as much. But Gus Rodeo, it's incredible what he's been able to do. He's dominated this weekend from the very first practice, leading by huge gaps every session and dominating these races and just doing it with consistency. And, it's awesome when you can come to a race weekend like he's having this weekend and you don't have to work on the bike and everything's going your way. 3 laps to go, and that gap is 10 seconds now for Gus Rodeo. He came in with confidence, and when you're able to do that, I imagine that it's a lot easier to maintain it when you already have told yourself that you're here to win and you're capable of doing so. And doing it at a place like Daytona where the draft is so huge, where you can be a second quicker than everybody through the infield, but the draft can pull them all back together, and to be able to come here at Daytona and break the draft and pull away over a second a lap,
You know, just shows how well he's riding. And not just Gus, you have to give credit to the team as well. They gave him the bike. They did the work this offseason, gave him something better. And as a young rider, you have to lean on your team a lot, and they really did their homework. And this year they're coming out. He won last year. But this year he looks like the man to beat.
Yep. And he is, you see him on the left-hand side of your screen. That's our race leader, Gus Rodeo, on the right-hand side. This battle continues to round out the podium, but it has been unchanged for the last lap or so. Alessandro Di Mario on the number 27, Rocco Landers still right behind him. The number 97, Suzuki, put out there by Vance and Hines. That's new for this season, and for Rocco, it's an incredible opportunity for him. We're going to see him for the full season, but we're going to see all of these riders for the full season, Roger.
Yeah, and it's good to see Ben Glotty come back to Daytona, where he had that crash last year, and be so fast. We kind of get to the point of the race where if you're in a spot where you want to be on the last lap, you might not make that pass like you did a couple laps ago. You might try to, if you feel like you can make the draft, you might get to a spot where, you know, you might be able to make the pass, but you might roll off and wait till the last lap. If you want to be the second man leading out of the chicane, then you don't need to make that pass.
So you see the number 92, that's Rossi Moore. He looks like he might be closing in on Rocco a little bit as you now look at Ben Glotty, our race leader, by over 11 seconds. Now coming on to begin our last lap of this race. He's taking the white flag this time by. So if you're going to do it, this is the time you've got to start to think about going for it.
And you see Rossi looking back there, you know, just kind of in the spot where he wants to be. He had a really good run. I think he felt like he could probably made the pass if it was the last lap. But these guys just seem like they're content with where they're at behind Alessandro Di Mario. He's going to need to really put a good infield together, try to break that gap. If not, I think on the last lap to run to the stripe, he could be a set and duck if he's leading these four out of the chicane and they're close.
On the left-hand side, you're seeing the team of Rocco Landers watching on. He currently sitting in that third position right now as they continue to make their way through the infield section of this racetrack on the final lap of the second race here at the BellissiMoto Twins Cup Championship.
See Alessandro there taking a look back, seeing how many guys are behind him. See Rocco there trying to get in there deep, see if he can get a good run out of here. And Alessandro Di Mario, you can see he really put his head down, but I think with just the way the draft and Daytona, it's going to be difficult for him to maintain that spot.
On the left-hand side, you see our race leader, that is Gus Rodeo. Again, we are on the final lap of this race, but the lead that he built before we got here already over 11 seconds. So all he has to do right now, Roger, is just stay settled in. Don't let the traffic that he's catching get him out of his sorts and just keep on going.
Yeah, and from here, I mean, Gus has it in the bag. He could probably coast in the battle here for Rocco, trying to get through that chicane really well. Alessandro Di Mario was so good in that first split. You can see that the gap that he pulled, he broke the rest of the group, but Rocco was the only one that was able to stay pretty close.
The question's going to be, is it close enough? As we now watch Gus Rodeo going across the checkered flag. He will win the second race, but who is going to take home second as Rocco Landers makes that move around Alessandro Di Mario? Is it going to be enough as he comes to the checkered flag? And he did it. Rocco Landers able to stay in second place. Alessandro Di Mario able to maintain that podium finish and come home in third.
And both those two guys, Rocco and Alessandro, did their best lap, that last lap.
You can see how hard they were pushing one another as they broke away from the other riders that had been there the whole race to round out the top five as Rossi Moore in fourth and Ben Glotty aboard that number 72 in fifth.
BellissiMoto Twins Cup is brought to you by BellissiMoto, where the biggest names in custom bike building shop for parts. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
All right, and we're back with the celebration. This is your podium. Gus Rodeo there on the right, the number 96 machine. Rocco Landers right in the middle, finishing second, and then Alessandro Di Mario on the number 27 right alongside him. What do you think they're saying to one another right now, Roger?
I think for Alessandro, he's got to be really happy because yesterday he kind of missed out on that podium. He was in the podium battle that whole race, and you know, they're probably pointing to each other and trying to ask how they how each other did, but it's so hard to hear with the bikes and with Gus doing a burnout. And what a great feeling for Gus to be able to come here and be able to do a burnout at Daytona and win. The gap only says 11 seconds, but he kind of backed off that last lap. It was kind of the same as yesterday, about 11 and a half seconds.
When you look at the schedule, the gaps that he was able to have here this weekend in these two races, are those repeatable? I mean, this was the battle for second. That's how close it was between Rocco Landers and Alessandro Di Mario.
And fourth and fifth was just as close with Rossi Moore. Great ride for Rossi. I mean, a big gain from yesterday, and for a young guy, that's all you can ask for is just chip away and get better each race.
As Gus Rodeo continues to take his cool down lap and celebrate around the racetrack. You take a look at him being there, the race winner for race number 2, Rocco Landers, Alessandro Di Mario, Rossi Moore, Ben Glotty. Caleb DeCarroll, he was able to finish inside of the top 10 today. Romeo Chiavini, 9th place finish. That's another good result for him as he's making his debut here in the Twins Cup Championship as well.
Ed Sullivan there with the top 10 finish. Had a nice little rebound from his crash yesterday. Sonia Lloyd
up to 12th.
12th again for her. It's a great ride, and Jeffrey Perk there 15th.
Just a really deep field, and all of these riders being able to come out and all of the work that went in the offseason to be able to be here and be ready this early on in the season for 2 solid races, Roger. That's a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot on all these teams, and especially for a guy like with Rocco, who just now got on the bike. So there's a lot of work to do, and I think when all these guys look and they see that gap to Gus and the work that his team did, they're gonna have a lot of work to do this next month.
Rocco is the 2nd place finisher, walking in with the bike being pushed, but you heard the revs coming in behind him from Gus Rodeo as he's now in victory lane to celebrate with his team.
Gus Rodeo, congratulations. Unbelievable job. 2nd day in a row where you just grabbed a huge lead. Man, was there any point on that track that you were able to relax?
Yeah, I mean, I could have relaxed about halfway in, but I just kept pushing because kind of what I do. I feel like when I slow down, I start to make mistakes. So I just pushed as hard as possible and came out with the win again. Same gap or so, I think, but I got to thank Aprilia, the whole team, Luckstar VIP, Geoscape Solar, the whole Robum side of the team, Matt, Mike, Freddie, Chad, my dad, my whole family. You guys are rushing me here, geez. And thanks everybody, I really appreciate it. And J-Mini GP.
And Gus, it looked like a very straightforward clinical race that you put on. Was there any adjustments that you were making out there?
No, I was just doing the same thing every single lap. I kind of had a little bit of like brake fade throughout the race, but I just kind of broke a little bit earlier and that made up for that. So it was just a lot of fun, and that's what a perfect weekend at Daytona Beach looks like. And I'm hoping we have some more of that this year.
Congratulations to Gus Rodeo. And Rocco Landers, who started on the 2nd row, comes on up for 2nd place. How did you get it done?
I was telling the team last night, I think we got a podium on our hands. The bike is, we've been making constant improvements. It's a new bike, obviously. I didn't even see it until Wednesday, I don't think. And but the team worked so hard. It came in late. Everything was so last minute. And they put obviously an incredible package together to get podium in our 2nd Twins Cup race on this machine for Suzuki. I couldn't give it up to Vance and Hines and the whole Revzilla Motul Vance and Hines Motorsports team. And obviously to Suzuki again, like they came together. They came through and pulled this whole deal together. And again, like this is a really good debut. And I think when we get some more development and maybe fix the bottom end of this thing, we got a race with a bike on our hands.
Absolutely. And when everything is coming together last minute, I'm sure that anxiety is rising. How do you get into that warrior mindset?
Just ride my supermoto bike a bunch of times every week.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Alessandro DeMario, where are you? He's not. There you are. He's right where he's supposed to be, and I'm not. Congratulations. A huge move for you, and you must be so proud of your efforts.
Yeah, you know, it's been a rough weekend. We blew a couple motors, and, you know, it was my first time at this track. It's unique. It's a lot of fun, so. And it's the only track I haven't been to yet, so, you know, I came into the weekend, I just wanted to get solid points, and, you know, 4th place and a 3rd place, it's not bad. But, you know, I'm looking forward to Atlanta and Barber. Those are some of my favorite tracks. So, you know, I'm really excited. I want to thank Robin. I want to thank Mike, Kevin Rodeo. You know, I want to congratulate my teammate Gus. He was absolutely fine this weekend. And, yeah, I want to thank Fred, Chad, and everybody's helped me out. Thank you.
And when you make the jump, as you did this weekend, from Junior Cup into Twins Cup, what are some of the biggest adjustments that you had to make?
Well, the bike, it's a little bigger. Like, you can feel it, and it's got a lot more power. So you just, you know, it's not very different from a Junior Cup bike. It's just got a little bit more power. It's the way you ride it, it's really similar. So it wasn't too hard. I've been riding it for a bit now, so I kind of got used to it.
Thank you so much for your time. Jamie, obviously a young rider, but an old soul experience down here for the Twins Cup.
And it looked like, Roger, as you watch the faces of all the riders as they make their way down there to celebrate, that Alessandro DeMario may have surprised himself a little bit. It's the only track that he had never been to, he said, but he was able to figure it out today.
And talked about how tough the track was as well, so he figured it out pretty quick. And not only was he fast today, he was really quick in yesterday's race as well.
Let's take a look at the highlights that we just watched unfold.
Yeah, and a great start by Dominic Doyle early in this race there on the outside. We had a problem with Avery Dreher, little mistake with another rider in the turn 1, went down. He was able to get up and walk off.
And we were able to stay green. You see Dominic Doyle there in 2nd place. We were expecting a strong finish from him.
I think from Dom was really riding good. We see Rocco here making this mistake early. All these guys are pushing so hard early in this race. They're trying to hang with Gus, and also Dominic Doyle trying not to break that draft. And you can see Dom just had his head down, fighting as hard as he can, and Gus was just putting in some really good laps. And then you can see Dominic Doyle, his race ended with the mechanical.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. That pack was able to stay together, and they really took it all the way down to that last lap. But Gus Rodeo, nobody could touch him.
Nobody could touch him all weekend, not just today. Came in and dominated, and the battle for the 2 podium spots here, 2nd and 3rd. Rocco Landers and Alessandro DeMario. Rocco was able to make the draft pass, but you know, it was all about Rocco, the rodeo racing team today, and what they did, and not only just today, but all weekend come in and dominate and not touch anything on the bike. It's just those are the weekends you dream of, so enjoy it. They don't happen a lot.
And being able to go back overnight and look at all of that data from Robum Engineering and be able to help Alessandro DeMario figure it out just a little bit quicker and make it onto the podium today. So lots of good things to come. Daytona has now finished. We go to Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, Barber Motorsports Park, Road America, Brainerd International Raceway, Circuit of the Americas. It is going to be a fantastic season for BellissiMoto Twins Cup. We'll be back.